December 7, 2014, from Sports Authority Field in Mile High in Denver, Colorado. It was the Buffalo Bills at the Denver Broncos. The Broncos won the toss and they elected to defer. The Buffalo Bills would take over first. They had the ball on their own 20 to begin their first possession. They were then faced with a 3rd and 1 from the 29. Kyle Orton then went to Scott Chandler, and he picked up 4 yards in the first down that brought the ball to the 33. They were then faced with a 2nd and 13 from the 30. Kyle Orton then went to Sammy Watkins, and he got blown up by Roby. He forced the fumble, and Moore recovered. Raheem Moore. So now the Broncos would take over on the Buffalo 46 with about 12 minutes left in the first. But they would end up going 3 and out. So now they would punt the ball back to Buffalo, and the turnover didn't cost them any points. And they would have the ball on their own 20 with a little over 10 minutes left in the first. They were then faced with a 2nd and 3 from the 27. Kyle Orton then went to Fred Jackson, picked up 4 yards in the first down that brought the ball to the 31. Fred Jackson then ran for 12 yards in the first down that brought the ball to the 43. They were then faced with a 3rd and 3 from the 50. Kyle Orton then went to Fred Jackson for a 7-yard pass that made a first down on the Denver 43. But their drive would end up stalling as they were faced with a 4th and 6 on the 39, and an incomplete pass would turn the ball over on downs. So now Denver would take over on their own 39 with about 5.5 on the clock in the first. And on first down, Peyton Manning with the Wes Welker. He picked up 38 yards in the first down that brought the ball across midfield and into Buffalo territory at the 23. They then got a false start that moved them backwards, but then on 3rd and 6 from the 19, Peyton Manning went to Welker again, but it was incomplete, but there was an illegal contact penalty against Buffalo, and so now it'd be a first down on the 14 for the Broncos. C.J. Anderson picked up 8 yards, and on 2nd and 2 from the 6, C.J. Anderson pushed it in from 6 yards out for the touchdown. So the Broncos put the first points on the scoreboard, and the score was now Denver 7, Buffalo 0. So now the Bills would take over with about 2.5 minutes left in the first. They had the ball on their own 19. Dixon ran for 11 yards in the first down to bring the ball to the 30. Then on 2nd and 7 from the 33, Goodwin ran on an end around for 12 yards in the first down that brought the ball to the 45. Then on 2nd and 10 from the 45, Kyle Orton went to Brown. He picked up 9 yards, just shy of the first down. But that brought the first quarter to a close. And after 1 quarter of play, the score was Denver 7, Buffalo 0. So now to open up the second quarter, it was 3rd and 1 on the Denver 46 for the Buffalo Bills. Fred Jackson then pushed it 2 yards for the first down to bring the ball to the 44. They were then faced with 2nd and 12 from the 46. Kyle Orton went to Hogan, and Hogan picked up 12 yards in the first down to bring the ball to the 34. Then on 3rd and 1 from the 25, Kyle Orton was sacked by Johnson and Knighton, and so out would come the field goal unit as Dan Carpenter would attempt a 44-yard field goal. It was up, it was good, and the Bills were now on the scoreboard with the score Denver 7, Buffalo 3. So now the Broncos would take over with less than 12 minutes left before halftime. They had a first down on their own 37 to begin their possession. But then Peyton Manning dropped back and was intercepted by Graham. And so Graham ended up running it back 60 yards all the way to the Buffalo 40. So he intercepted it in the end zone. And now the Bills had the ball on their own 40. Actually, doesn't make sense. Oh, there was a penalty, a holding penalty against Buffalo that brought it back. That's why. All right, so now Buffalo had the ball on their own 40, and they ended up going 3 and out. So now they would put it right back to the Broncos, and the Broncos, would have the ball on their own 40 with 9 minutes left, and they did not actually let up any points off the turnover. Just as earlier, Buffalo didn't let any points up off of their turnover. So now Buffalo was faced with the Broncos just 60 yards away from their end zone, and on 2nd and 2 from the 48, C.J. Anderson, Mr. Anderson, ran at 3 yards for the first down to bring the ball into Buffalo territory at the 49. Emmanuel Sanders then ran for 13 yards on an end around to bring the ball to the 36 for a first down. So then on 3rd and 8 from the 34, Peyton Manning went to Sanders. It was incomplete, but there was pass interference against the Bills and unsportsmanlike contact as well. And so now it was a first down in the red zone for the Broncos on the 19. Anderson ran for 6 yards, and then Thompson ran for 4 yards, and now it was 1st and goal on the 9. A 7-yard pass from Manning to Welker made it 2nd and goal on the 2, and a 1-yard run by Stewart set up 3rd and goal on the 1, and C.J. Anderson punched it in from a yard out. They ended up challenging the play whether he broke the plane, and it was ruled that yes, he did, and the score was now Denver 14, Buffalo 3. So now the Bills would take over with 3.5 minutes left before halftime. They would go 3 and out. Orton was sacked on 1st down by Jackson for a 6-yard loss, and sacked on 2nd down by Von Miller for a 5-yard loss. And although they did pick up some yards on 3rd down, like I said, they went 3 and out and punted the ball back to the Broncos. So now the Denver Broncos would take over on their own 39. Peyton Manning then went to Sanders for a 37-yard pass, and this is less than 2 minutes on the clock. So now they had the ball. There's an incomplete pass, and then Peyton Manning went to Welker for a 4-yard pass. Now on 3rd and 6 from the Buffalo 20, right there in field goal range. Peyton Manning went to the tight end, Jacob Tamme, for a 12-yard reception. Williams blew him up, forced the fumble. Graham recovered. And so now Buffalo got the ball as they avoided some more points as the Broncos were in position to get at least a field goal. But with the turnover, Buffalo would bring the first half to a close. So after 1 half of play, the score was Denver 14, Buffalo 3. So now the Broncos would start off the second half, and on their first possession, they were on their own 20 to start things off. They actually ended up being faced with a 2nd and 15. Peyton Manning went to Thompson. He picked up 14 to make it 3rd and 1 from the 29. Thompson then ran for 47 yards to bring the ball all the way across midfield and into the Buffalo territory at the 24 for the 1st down. Peyton Manning then went to Wes Welker for a 21-yard pass to make it 1st and goal on the 3. And Mr. Anderson, C.J. Anderson, punched it in from 3 yards out for his 3rd touchdown of the game, as he had scored all the points for the Broncos on the ground. And so now, or, well, either way, but the score was now Denver 21, Buffalo 3. C.J. Anderson getting in the end zone 3 times. So now the Buffalo Bills had the ball with 12 minutes on the clock in the 3rd. Still plenty of game left, but they were trailing by 18 points. They had it on their own 20. They ended up getting a 1st down, but then they ended up being faced after a holding penalty, made it 1st and 20 from the 29. Kyle Orton out of the shotgun, intercepted by Brandon Marshall. Not that Brandon Marshall, the defensive Brandon Marshall that plays on the Broncos. So now the Broncos had the ball on the Buffalo 33 with about 10 minutes left in the 3rd. They were ended up being faced with a 3rd and 12 from the 35, and Peyton Manning out of the shotgun, and he was intercepted by Gilmore. So back-to-back interceptions. There was actually an unnecessary roughness call against Buffalo, but that would be tacked on after the interception. So now Buffalo would take over on their own 26 with about 9 minutes left in the 3rd. Kyle Orton would go to Sammy Watkins for a 14-yard pass to make it a 1st down on the 40. Then on 3rd and 5 from the 45, Kyle Orton went to Chandler for a 7-yard pass and a 1st down that brought the ball across midfield and into Denver territory at the 48. Then on 3rd and 16 from the 46, Kyle Orton went to Sammy Watkins. He picked up 35 yards and a 1st down that brought the ball to the red zone at the Denver 19. So now a 1st down from the 19. Kyle Orton out of the shotgun, and he was intercepted by Harris, as we now had 3 straight interceptions on these last 3 possessions, although this was on the 8th play of this possession. So 4 minutes later, just about, another interception. Lots of turnovers in this game. It was just very heavily defensive-minded, even though the score might not have quite indicated that, as Denver had 21 points up there. And they now had the ball back with 5 minutes left in the 3rd. They had it on their own 40. They were then faced with a 3rd and 1 from the 49, and C.J. Anderson rushed it 2 yards for the 1st down to bring the ball across midfield to the Buffalo 49. Thompson then ran for 14 yards and a 1st down to the 35. But their drive would stall on the Buffalo 32, and out would come Connor Barth to attempt a 50-yard field goal. It was up and it was good. And so now the Broncos had extended their lead to 21 points with the score Denver 24, Buffalo 3. So now the Bills would take over with a minute left before the end of the third. They had it on their own 20. On 2nd and 2 from the 28, Fred Jackson ran for 3 yards in the first down. And on 1st and 10 from the 31, Kyle Orton went to Robert Woods. He picked up 7 yards to bring the ball to the 38 in the third quarter to a close. So after 3 quarters of play, the score was Denver 24, Buffalo 3. So now the Bills would open up the fourth quarter with the ball on their own 38. They were faced with a 2nd and 3. Orton and Jackson picked up 2 yards, and now it was 3rd and 1 from the 40, and Orton went to Sammy Watkins. He picked up 17 yards in the first down that brought the ball across midfield and into Denver territory at the 43. Then on 36 from the 39, Kyle Orton went to Chandler. He picked up 14 yards in the first down that brought the ball to the 25. And on 2nd and 10 from the 25, Kyle Orton went to Sammy Watkins for a 21-yard reception that made it 1st and goal on the Denver 4. They weren't able. It was 2 incomplete passes would bring up 3rd and goal from the 4. And Kyle Orton was then intercepted by Bruton, but it was actually challenged and reversed. And they ruled it was an incomplete pass, and there was also a holding penalty. But actually there was an unnecessary roughness penalty as well, and the 2 penalties were offsetting. And so it ended up now with still being 3rd. They replayed the down. And then what ended up happening was a 4-yard touchdown. But wait a minute, no, there was a pass interference call against the offense. So the touchdown was taken off the board. And so now it would be 3rd and goal from the 14. Kyle Orton now out of the shotgun. And now he did get the touchdown to Hogan. 14-yard touchdown pass to make this a 14-point game with the score Denver 24, Buffalo 10. So now the Broncos would take over with a little less than 11 minutes left in the fourth quarter. They had it on their own 25. And on 3rd and 5 from the 30, C.J. Anderson picked up 5 yards in the first down that brought the ball to the 35 for the first down. They would end up stalling on the 39 and having to punt the ball. And so now the Buffalo Bills would take over down by 2 touchdowns with 6.5 minutes left in this game, backed up against their own end zone on their own 8-yard line. But they would end up going 3 and out and punting the ball back to the Broncos. So now the Broncos would take over with about 5.5 minutes left in this game, and they would go 3 and out, as they only were able to get about a minute off the game clock. And so now Buffalo would take over with about 4:20 left in this game, down by 2 touchdowns. Orton went to Hogan. He picked up 10 yards in the first down that brought the ball to the 20, and on 3rd and 16 from the 14. An incomplete pass would make it 4th and 16 from the 14. Buffalo had no choice but to go for it, even though they're pretty much in the shadow of their own end zone. But Kyle Orton ended up hitting Sammy Watkins. He picked up 19 yards in the first down that brought the ball to the 33. They were then faced with another 4th down, this one 4th and 1 from the 42, and Kyle Orton hit Chandler for a 5-yard pass in the first down that brought the ball to the 47. They were then faced with a 3rd and 5 on the Denver 48, and Kyle Orton went to Chandler for a 23-yard reception. There was a penalty against the defense, but they declined it. It was defensive holding. They still picked up 23 yards, and it was now a first down on the 25 for Buffalo of the Broncos. And so now on 2nd and 10 from the Denver 25, Kyle Orton went to Chandler. He picked up 12 yards in the first down that brought the ball into the red zone on the Denver 13. They then had 2nd and 10 from the 13. Kyle Orton went to Robert Woods. He picked up 12, almost a touchdown, but it was right there on the 1. 1st and goal, and Kyle Orton just took it in himself for the touchdown that made this a 7-point game with the score Denver 24, Buffalo 17. So now Buffalo would go for an onside kick, but the Broncos recovered, and all that was left to do was for Peyton Manning to take 2 knees as the Broncos hold on to win this one with the final score Denver 24, Buffalo 17. So with the victory, the Broncos are the second team to reach 10 victories, or they both at the same time pretty much. I'm not sure exactly on the clock which team technically closed their game out first, but Arizona also reached double-digit victories, as did the Broncos here in this game. So the Broncos are now 10-3 on the season, only one of 2 teams to have double-digit victories in 2014 at this point. They're 7-0 at home, and I believe only the Cardinals are the only other team that's undefeated at home, although I could be mistaken on that one. I have to look into that just off the top of my head. But the Buffalo Bills are 7-6 on the season, 3-3 on the road. And in this game, Peyton Manning was 14 for 20 with 173 passing yards and 2 interceptions. That's kind of a rarity for Peyton. Buffalo held them to very little, but they were able to get it done anyway. Kyle Orton had 38 for 57 for 355 passing yards, 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions. So Orton putting up the huge numbers, although he had more interceptions than touchdowns as well. Both, like I said, lots of turnovers in this game. Juwan Thompson had 4 carries for 63 yards to be the game's leading rusher. C.J. Anderson had 21 carries for 58 yards and 3 touchdowns rushing. So 3 total touchdowns, 3 running touchdowns for C.J. Anderson. And then the game's leading receiver was actually Sammy Watkins. He had 7 receptions for 127 yards. Scott Chandler had 8 receptions for 81 yards. And Hogan had 7 receptions for 54 yards. Fred Jackson actually had 10 receptions for 37 yards to go along with his 35 yards rushing, and Robert Woods had 3 receptions for 36 yards. For Denver, Wes Welker had 6 receptions for 82 yards. Emmanuel Sanders had 4 receptions for 56 yards. Thompson had 1 reception for 14 yards to go along with his 63 rushing yards. Thomas had 2 receptions for 11 yards. Tammy had 1 reception for 10 yards. That's all the receiving right there for Denver anyway. I left a couple of Bills off. I didn't go through every reception for the Bills, but I did go every reception for the Broncos. There wasn't that many of them. It was all about the defense. And for the Denver defense, and the leading tackler in this game was a 3-way tie between 3 Broncos. Brandon Marshall, along with David Bruton, hopefully I'm saying that right, Bradley Roby. Those 3 all had 9 tackles apiece, and Bruton and Roby each had 1 tackle for a loss. Marshall had 3 passes defended, and he also had an interception as well. The Broncos had 4 sacks. Jackson and Harris and Von Miller each had 1 sack, and Johnson and Knighton combined for a sack as well. They had a half sack each, and there was no sacks for Buffalo. The Denver Broncos offensive line did a phenomenal job of keeping Peyton from being sacked, although he was under heavy pressure and wasn't able to reach 200 yards passing, but they kept him from being sacked, although he did throw 2 interceptions as Graham and Gilmore each intercepted Peyton, and Harris and Marshall both intercepted Orton. And also, in terms of turnovers, there was also the Broncos fumbled it once, and they lost it once. The Bills fumbled twice, and they lost it once. So tons of turnovers in this game. Each team had 2 interceptions and 2 fumbles, of course, though they each lost 1 and recovered 1. But the Broncos stay in first place in the AFC West, as they're going to be at least 1 game up, maybe 2 by the end of the day. The Chiefs lost, so they're 3 up on the Chiefs, and they'll see what happens on Sunday Night Football with the Chargers and the Patriots as to where they fall for the number 1 seed and where they're at in their division lead, whether it's 1 or 2 games. We shall see, but in this game, the final score, Denver 24, Buffalo 17.